Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. So today I want to be talking about why you must stop eating carbohydrates to lose body fat. I know that carbohydrates or carbs are a very controversial topic. I know that there's so many misconceptions out there. Maybe right now you're believing that you shouldn't be eating carbs because this is the thing that makes you fat. Or maybe you believe that carbs are your best friend. I'm going to be talking all about that and then give you my tips to help you with your goal of losing body fat. So the real question is, are carbohydrates really that bad? There are a few misconceptions out there. I think like this has been a very trending topic, and I think it still is a very trending topic until today. The common misconceptions out there are that carbohydrates makes you fat. You cannot lose fat while eating carbohydrates. And low carb diet is the best diet if you want to see results, if you want to lose fat, if you want to get in the best shape of your life. And I just think that carbohydrates have such a bad reputation. And in my experience, this is something I used to believe. I used to believe that carbs were the worst thing in the world, and this was the thing that made me fat. So I will cut out all carbohydrates. The typical, I won't have any bread, I won't have any rice, I'm just gonna have chicken and salad and nothing else. I try low fat diets, I try following a keto diet, and the problem with this is that it's not realistic, it's not fun, and it's also not sustainable. And when these things happen, when something is not realistic or sustainable, it's much easier not to sustain the results that we got, which means it's not long term and it's more like a quick fix. It just gives you those short term results and you never get those long lasting results. And also, it doesn't help you build a good relationship with food because you tell yourself that, carbs are bad, I shouldn't be eating this. And anytime you see that carbohydrate or someone offers you, let's say, cookies, you say, no, carbs are bad, I'm on a diet, I shouldn't be eating this. But then after a while, you go into this binging cycle because, let's face it, carbohydrates are very yummy, they're very tasty. And the thing that happens when we remove them completely is that we go back to them and we just start binging, and it's a cycle that doesn't stop. And they just have poor carbohydrates, they have such a bad reputation. But the reality is that carbohydrates are not that bad, trust me. Probably for the first, I don't know, roughly 8 years of my journey, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more, I used to believe that carbs were bad. But once I started working with my first ever coach, I understood that carbohydrates are actually not that bad. And they are really and honestly our best friends because it's the thing that is going to give us energy, is the thing that is going to help us with our goal of losing body fat, and I'm going to explain why. And it's a thing that helps us to also build muscle, which sometimes maybe doesn't make sense, but once you hear what I'm about to say, hopefully it's going to make sense for you. So why carbohydrates are crucial for fat loss and for toning? Before I tell you that, let me quickly give you an overview of what actually carbohydrates are. So every time I say carbs, I just mean carbohydrates. It's just a short word, an easy word to say instead of me saying the whole thing. Okay, so carbs are a macronutrient. So macro, big molecules, there are three that we need: protein, carbs, and fats. So carbohydrate, well, carbs is just one of them. They are the main energy source. So anytime we eat carbohydrates, our body uses that as the main energy source. So carbs are the main one, then fats, and then protein. But carbohydrates are more efficient, more easy available. That's why it's easier for our body to break it down and use that as energy. We find them in fruits, we find them in vegetables, we find them in grains, and we also find them in legumes. So there are two types of carbohydrates. We have simple carbs, which are the ones that break down easily, the ones that your body digests really quick. So things like sugar, things like candy, things like lowies, all the yummy things that we want to eat in moderation. And then complex carbohydrates are the one, as the name suggests, complex. So they take a little bit longer to break down because they have that fiber. So things like, let's say, brown rice. And it just means that they're going to keep you longer, they're going to keep you fuller for longer. So those are the ones that we want to be adding more in our diet. Okay, so those are the two types of carbohydrates. Now, why do carbohydrates matter? Why, Dana, you tell me they're important, but why? Why should I be including them in my diet, in my day-to-day life? They matter because of these three main reasons. Number one, as I mentioned earlier, they are the main energy source. If you don't have that main energy source, your energy levels are gonna be so low. And not only that, but it's also gonna affect your mood. So you're gonna be feeling grumpy, you're gonna be feeling tired, you won't be able to focus, and it's just not gonna be a fun time. Why should we do that to ourselves? Second reason, it's because glucose, it's the main energy source for our brain. So if you're not having enough carbohydrates, or if you're not eating carbohydrates, you're not going to be able to think efficiently, and you won't be able to focus or concentrate. And also muscles need carbohydrates to be able to perform at the gym. And the third reason is because if we don't have this, our performance at the gym is gonna be pretty average or pretty low, because we won't have anything to keep us going, anything to give us that push, that energy that we need to ensure that we have and we get a really good workout, that we tear those muscle fibers, and that we build muscle mass with time. The problem, or what happens with the body when we don't have carbohydrates, let's just say right now I'm following a low carb diet. My body is going to start using fats. Remember, fats are the second main energy source, and protein to give me that energy that I need. But this is going to be less efficient. And it's just, again, it's not a fun place. I remember when I was doing bodybuilding, I was prepping for my show maybe 24 weeks, something like that. But with like at the early stages of the prep, I was having carbs in my diet. But as the prep was getting closer, we removed all carbohydrates, because carbohydrates make you retain a little bit of water. And sometimes with bodybuilding, we don't want to have much of that water. We want to have that dry look. And for that, we remove carbohydrates. But it was not a fun time at all. I was weeks and weeks and weeks only eating fish, green veggies, peanut butter, what else? Those three main things, or sometimes chicken. And it was honestly so boring. And not only that, but my energy levels were so low. I was feeling extremely depleted, and my performance at the gym was just, I don't even know how I was surviving. I think I was that at that time I was taking pre-workout because it was necessary. Otherwise, I was not going to be able to keep up and finish my workouts, because it was just crazy, 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 crazy. Okay, so the next question is, how do they help me with fat loss? Or Danny, how do they help me with my goal of toning? If I have these goals, how do carbohydrates make a difference with my goals that I have right now? They make a huge difference, because one, they're gonna fuel your workout. Remember, carbohydrates, main energy source. If we don't have that energy source, you're gonna feel like shit. If you feel like shit, you won't be able to push yourself. If you don't push yourself, you're gonna be lifting the same weights, or maybe you have to drop the weights. You won't be able to break those muscle fibers. Your muscles are not gonna be able to grow. They're not gonna be able to grow stronger. Long term, you're just gonna maintain what you have right now, or maybe you might even lose weight or lose muscle mass, and you won't achieve the look that you want to achieve. They also help us to gain muscle mass, because once we finish with the workout, remember that recovery is where the magic happens. And if we don't have a good recovery, and by recovery, I don't just mean sleeping and that's it, but I mean recovering with the fuel, so with the nutrients that you put into your body. If you are not having carbs in protein straight after you work out, your body won't be able to repair efficiently. And if it's not repairing efficiently, you're simply not going to get the results that you want to get. And also, carbohydrates are going to help us to preserve muscle mass. And if we have more muscle mass, we're going to be burning more calories, which means we're going to be losing more body fat, which is exactly what we want. And they're just going to give you better results. I include carbohydrates on my day-to-day life. I have carbs on my breakfast, I have carbs on my lunch, I have carbs on my snacks, literally in every single meal. All of my clients also have carbohydrates. And you will see like they're getting amazing results. And I feel like if you don't have those carbs, it's much easier not to get those results, because it's going to be much easier for us to go off track, to go back to that binging cycle, and you're simply never going to achieve anything. And the reason why carbs helps with toning, because toning, building muscle mass, same thing, toning is more feminine, because after we train, the way that our body recovers is the same with fat loss. The way that our body recovers when we eat carbohydrates, let's just say I just finished my training, I'm going to have my rice cake with something, but I'm just going to talk about the rice cake, which is a carbohydrate. My body is going to replenish the glycogen stores. So carbohydrates are stored into our muscles as glycogen. And when we do our workout, our body uses that glycogen, uses that as energy to be able to perform. Once we finish, we run out of glycogen, so we need something to restore that glycogen so we can perform better for next workout, so we can recover. And the only way to do that is by having those carbohydrates. So it's going to help you with your recovery, it's going to help you with your growth, it's going to give you better results. And if we don't have those carbohydrates in your system, let's just say again, I'm doing a low carb diet, my body is going to have that appearance of looking less full. I'm going to look flat, and I'm also going to look that I have, or look with less definition. And you might be thinking, that doesn't make sense. If I'm eating less carbohydrates, if I'm not retaining that much water, I should be having more definition, right? Not really. It's a little bit of the opposite, because when you have carbohydrates, and remember how I say carbohydrates are stored into your muscles as glycogen, that glycogen binds into water. About, I think it's roughly 3 grams or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But carbohydrates, what glycogen binds into water. So you have glycogen and water in your muscle cells, and that's what gives you that fullness look that you have. Let's say, imagine someone that has a really nice and muscly physique. They have really round shoulders, they have really round quads, glutes, hamstrings, that amazing physique. That person looks that way because she or him, they're looking really nice and full. If we were to reduce those carbohydrates, they're going to look very flat. So those muscles are going to look less full. If they're looking less full, you're going to have less definition. And also your veins won't be popping out as much. And that's not really going to give you that shred look. So if you're watching this video, you will be able to see the picture that I'm showing you right now. It's just an example. But if you're listening to this, just imagine someone that is very, very big and muscly. Obviously, this is a very extreme example from a very popular, very famous bodybuilder, but this was just to give you the point. So on the left, you can see that in here, he was not having much carbohydrates. He was having a very low carb diet. Remember how I told you leading up to the comp, we reduced the carbohydrates. But on the day of the show, or maybe this was the day after, it depends. Everyone responds a little bit different. He fuels his body with carbohydrates, and you can see how he looks way more defined. You can see the striations on his muscles. You can see those veins popping a little bit more than before, and that's because in here he has more glycogen stores. In here he doesn't have much. He has lost water, and here he has a little bit more water. So as you can see, it makes a huge difference. So carbohydrates, again, are actually really good for us. So remember the misconceptions that I told you earlier about carbs make you fat? Well, the reality is that no, they don't make you fat. The only thing that makes you fat, or the only thing that makes you gain body fat, is overconsumption. There's no such a thing as carbohydrates or this specific thing. If you eat this, you're gonna gain fat. There's no such thing as that. Your body doesn't respond like that. It's not like I'm gonna eat bread and then the next day I'm gonna gain 20 kgs. It's only when we have overconsumption of anything, even the quote unquote healthy food, even if you're eating too much of healthy food, and I say quote unquote because remember, we shouldn't be labeling foods, but even if you have that quote unquote healthy food, you're still gonna gain fat. It's not because of what you're consuming. It's more about of how much you are consuming. So again, carbohydrates don't make you fat. The second misconception that I mentioned earlier was you can't lose fat while eating carbohydrates. Yes, you can, 100%. Again, I eat carbohydrates. Every single one of my clients, they have carbohydrates in the meal plans because we need them, we want them, and we can lose fat 100%. The way that we do that is by making sure that we're eating foods that we enjoy, eating things that we love. That way we can stay on track. And the way that we reduce body fat is by reducing the calories. This is how we can get that goal or achieve that goal that we want. And the last misconception was low carb is the best diet for fat loss. No, it's not. That's 100% false. A balanced diet, something that is flexible, something that you enjoy, something that you can stick to every single day, Monday to Sunday. That's the best diet for you and for your goals. If you hear anyone telling you you need to follow low carb, you need to follow keto, you need to become vegan or vegetarian, they're just talking BS. You only need to do what's best for you, and you only do the thing that's gonna work better with your lifestyle. with your likes, with your dislikes, also with your allergies, sorry, we need to take everything in consideration. And that's exactly what I do when I do the meal plans for my client. I make sure I include things that they love, carbs, bread, everything. I make sure I remove things that they don't like. If they have any allergies, make sure not to include those meals or ingredients. That way it's realistic, it's sustainable, and remember, it's all about sustainability so we can achieve those long-term results. Let's say you are following a low-carb diet, or you're having very, very, very minimum diet. The problems that you're gonna get, number one, glycogen depletion. So you won't have enough energy at the gym. You won't have enough energy or sources for your body, for your muscles to recover. You won't be able to gain that muscle mass. If you don't have enough muscle mass, you won't be able to lose body fat efficiently. You're gonna feel very tired. Your performance, not just at the gym, but your day-to-day life, you're gonna feel so tired and so depleted. And trust me, it's gonna affect you with everything. You're also gonna get nutrient deficiency, because if you're not eating carbs, you're not eating enough fiber, sorry. And if you're not eating enough fiber, that's gonna mess up your digestion, and you won't be able to digest foods properly. It's also gonna impact your mood. It's gonna impact your clarity. Excuse me. So anytime we have carbohydrates, this affects the process of our body with serotonin. So serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps us to be happy. You know, it's kind of like the happiness, yeah, I guess the happiness neurotransmitter. If we don't have enough carbohydrates, this is going to affect that process that goes in our body to release serotonin, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that we have enough carbs so we're happy and we have that clarity and we're able to focus. And also not enough carbs in your diet, it's going to be much harder to gain muscle mass, and it's going to be much easier to lose muscle mass, because again, not insufficient or not enough recovery. If you don't have that recovery, it's going to be impossible for you to achieve your goals. So I really want you to understand that carbohydrates are good for you. Please, if you are afraid of them, don't be afraid. Maybe it's gonna take time to slowly start including them into your day-to-day life. Yes, it will take time, but once you do that, you will see how much better you're gonna look and better results that you're gonna get, and how you're gonna make things much easier for you to stick to the thing that you're following. Carbohydrates are our best friend, and yes, you can eat carbohydrates any time of the day. You can eat them first in the morning for breakfast. I know that there's so many misconceptions about you shouldn't be eating carbs first thing in the morning, because this is gonna mess up with, I think it was with your cortisol, something like that. It's gonna make you feel more stressed. I don't know, some random BS out there that please don't believe everything that you hear. Yes, you can eat them in the morning for breakfast. You can eat them at nighttime. You can eat them early hours of the day. You can eat them anytime. Obviously, if you eat them at nighttime, there's absolutely nothing wrong when we're talking about fat loss. It might just disrupt your sleep, but just with anything, protein, fats, and carbs. If you eat too late, it might, just because your body's gonna be trying to digest that food that you ate, so it's gonna keep you awake. But again, just fat loss or muscle building is not gonna affect that at all. So please include carbohydrates. You're gonna get amazing results. The only thing is moderation. Moderation is key. That's the main thing with everything. I think this is something I tell you guys all the time. So the main message I want you to take away from this podcast is that carbohydrates are our best friend. Carbohydrates are important to ensure that we perform really good at the gym, to ensure that we get a really good recovery, to ensure that we have more muscle growth, to ensure that we lose more body fat, and to ensure that we stay consistent with the thing that we are doing. Because if you're not consistent, you're simply never going to achieve the results that you want to have, and you won't be able to maintain what you have achieved so far. I really hope that from now on you are able to include those carbohydrates. If you're not 100% sure how to do it, please send me a DM on any of my social medias. That way I can help you. Let's have a chat and see if I can help you, also how I can help you, because I want you to live a lifestyle that is healthy and that is sustainable. And if you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media, or share it with anyone that is really afraid of carbohydrates right now. Until next time, and as I always say, don't ever stop believing in yourself. Ciao, ciao.